Hello world, and welcome to Arch.fro. Today's video is going to be about my uncle's gift. It was a drawing I did that symbolized his new family. In 2017 he got married, and in 2018 he had his first child. And there's a very funny story behind his whole family dynamic. So I wanted to do something special for him, and this is the video for it. Okay guys, so like I said before, this was a drawing that I did for my uncle and his new family. Their story of how they got together was really interesting, and it spanned really a lifetime, but I'm not going to get too much into that, and I'm going to focus more on the drawing that I did for them. Similar to yin and yang, you have the two sides that come together to create the same whole, a complete form. I'm not necessarily using yin and yang as reference, but the idea remains that it was two sides that were always meant to be together, and when they came together, they created something new. That's my baby cousin. Yeah, I really enjoyed drawing this for them. I did it really quickly too. It was one night, probably 2 or 3 hours of drawing footage that I had to just speed up and fit into 20 minutes, but it was worth it. I think it was more than worth it, really. So that was the highlight, I would say, of my vacation, being able to take the time to really do something that I thought meant something. And since it was during the holiday season, it made even more sense, because that's how I see the holidays. It's about doing things for the people you care about and spending time with the ones you love. I don't really get to do that often, and I took full advantage of that for this holiday. I was driving all over Florida. I was seeing so much of my family and getting to know new people too that I didn't expect to get to know. I got to hang out with so many cousins, baby ones and grown-up ones, and we got to have fun. It was the best trip I think I've ever had. It wasn't overly long, and it wasn't too short, which is always the thing that I'm worried about when it comes to taking trips or going on vacation. I guess is why I hadn't had one since the previous year. Anyway, it was great, and I really needed it. this drawing, I used 3-ish techniques of using ink. So the first one that you're seeing is outlining. I was outlining mostly so that I would have a good gauge of where the ink should go once I started the full block inking, essentially. I don't know if that's what you'd call it, but just filling in larger areas of ink. So that would be the second one. That would be using this brush pen that I filled the reservoir with India ink. I think it was Speedball. And I was able to just feed enough that I needed while I'm stroking the page, and it worked really well. Something you don't see on the video is that I had to do multiple coats. I probably did about 3, and that was because you know how black ink is. When you're using it on white paper, it doesn't cover the way you want it to the first time. I don't know if that's just me, but that's something I've been experiencing a lot. So I just have to find ways of coping with that. Then the third technique you've seen, or you would be seeing here, is stippling, or pointillism. I prefer to say pointillism. It's just making small dots, lots and lots of small dots that eventually work like adding pigment. Well, you are adding pigment, but it's kind of like how you would look at an image on your phone or computer screen. It's made of small dots of light. Well, in this case, it's small dots of black. That's one of my favorite techniques to use. One that I didn't use here is hatching, but between the two of those, I enjoy them because they can get you from really dark and gradually bring you across the spectrum all the way to white. It's just how much do you put in, how far do you space the individual either dots or lines if you're using hatching, and how much control can you have? That's what it's all about, just being very controlled. So that's probably why I was able to do this so long, is because when you're doing it, when I do it, I tend to zone out. I just zone in to the drawing itself, and I'm just focusing on every dot, not thinking too much about what I'm doing tomorrow or how much something costs or when I have to go back to work. But instead I'm thinking about, oh, I need a few more dots here. Oh, this is forming a pattern. Do I want a pattern? Yes, no, maybe, okay. But yeah, that's how my drawings tend to go for me. You just keep going until you have something you're comfortable with. And, well, I don't know, what do you guys think about this type of drawing? Using abstract forms, many times I would use geometric forms to form the image, and if you see my other works, that's a trend or a motif of mine. But this one is one of the more free-formed. Yes, there's the circles, but it just flows. Kind of like looking at a lava lamp on paper, which, again, I'm not too mad about. I like how this one turned out. It was very fluid and very warm feeling to me. So yeah, I guess that's why I like it. I just like to be able to create something that isn't too obvious, but also something you can find meanings in. Another style that I like would really be when someone uses a lot of texture, but it would be texture and contrast. I really love contrast. So when you can get your hatching or your line work or whatever you're doing to have a strong contrast, to me it shows a lot of confidence, and it shows that you're not really afraid of messing up. Because yes, going bold opens you up for more mistakes that would be harder to fix. But also, if you just go for it, your mistakes can sometimes become art. You can make your work better by allowing more mistakes, which sounds a lot deeper than I thought it would, but it's the truth. That's happened to me a lot of times, that I would be working. I make one mistake, and then it's the process of trying to fix that mistake that everything becomes better. When I went to architecture school, one of the earliest lessons they gave us in iStudio was to show the history. You're not drawing all the time to just get it perfect the first time. There's a process that you have to go through, and that's when you develop your creative eye. You are able to coordinate your thoughts, the reality of what you've done, and find a happy balance between where you meant to be and where you wound up. So the technique that they showed us, well, not really a technique, the lesson that they taught us was by having a large sheet of parchment paper up against the wall, and we had to use a long bamboo stick with a little piece of charcoal tied to the end of it, and we had to draw the still life that was in the middle of the room. And every day when we finished, we had to go over the entire drawing with an eraser. Now, we weren't going to be erasing everything to the point that the paper was completely clean, because that was impossible. The pigment from the charcoal had settled, and it became really a part of the surface now. So then the next day, we had to draw over the same paper, fix any mistakes that we could see, and over time, the history of what we had done would start to show through. So yes, your final result would be a heavier pigment, but the remnants of what was left behind, your mistakes, your other attempts at drawing the same things, would be more like an imprint, an impression, almost like a ghostly line that built up so much depth and more drama in what you're doing. This drawing doesn't really have that quality, but I utilized that lesson. The lesson that you can create depth through mistakes. You can create a history, you can give character to something, not by getting it right the first time, but by going through the process. Thinking, okay, well, maybe if I did it this way instead, it would have been better. And then next time you draw something, you try it that way. You try that correction. And what happens is that your previous drawing becomes the history of your overall practice. And that's what's so amazing about drawing. The other thing is texture. Because even though this drawing is meant to be high contrast and very solid, the texture that is there comes from the brush strokes, the pen strokes, using the felt tip markers and the microns. You gain a texture because nothing there is smooth, really. And that's what makes the original drawings so much better, You're seeing the true history of what the artist went through to create it. So yes, my uncle got the original of this, and because his mother was kind of a part of the story, don't tell her, but she's going to get a copy of it. So that's what's really fun about this drawing. It's spread to multiple people in different cities, and it's all about family. So again, I hope your holiday was great. I hope you got to spend it with people you cared about, even if it's not family. Just as long as you had fun or enjoyment in something. And here's the final product. It took one night, and I am so happy that I finished it in time. Alright, so I hope you guys liked it, and if you liked this video, just let me know. Just do a thumbs up and maybe leave a comment. I'd love it if you could subscribe. Above all, check out my Instagram. That's where I started Arch.fro, and I'd love to keep you as part of the community. Okay guys, till next time.